Hey, what's going on everyone? Back with another video today on what I believe are the 10 biggest threats to web publishing and blogging. So it does feel good to be back making videos. It has been close to 6 months, I think. So I'm pretty slack with the frequency of uploading, but I'm in the process of moving homes at the moment and I had a bit of downtime, so I thought this would be a really good opportunity just to smash out one of these videos. So yeah, for this video, this is going to be covering kind of the 10 biggest threats to the blogging and web publishing kind of business model. So the idea for this video actually came around the other day when I was speaking with another web publisher, and we were kind of just brainstorming kind of threats to the kind of business model and industry. So by no means is this like the extensive or the kind of complete list. I'm sure there's many others out there. So if you have any other kind of concerns about the industry, please share them down below in the comments. And also this video isn't kind of, I guess the aim of the video isn't like the sky is falling or blogging is dead. It's not necessarily one of those kind of videos. It's more so just things to be aware of. Every business has its threats to the model. So this is kind of just like a good thought experiment to kind of just think of these things, I guess, and just to be aware of them. So yeah, I guess I'll just get stuck straight in, and also I'm going to try and record this in one go like my other videos. So if I kind of stumble my words or whatever, just please, I don't know, just yeah, don't worry about that too much. So kicking off with the first one. And this is actually Reddit in particular, and also forums as well. So for the longest time, Reddit, Quora, forums, these have been kind of really easy pickings for people to go after and to find really kind of easy keywords and topics to go after. But if you talk to kind of most SEOs, I know for me personally, I definitely do this. If I'm going to search for something, whether it's like a product recommendation or just kind of general information, in a lot of cases I'm just going to search for the question followed by Reddit, because I know that I'm going to skip through so much kind of like affiliate fluff and bullcrap and just get a direct source from someone that in most cases knows what they're talking about excuse me, and they're not trying to like push a certain agenda or product kind of thing. So I think there is kind of a shift over to kind of Reddit and forums to try and get information from like an expert in the space. So I do know a lot of SEOs are doing this. So maybe there is more of a transition for searchers to do this as well, just general searchers, people that use Google, because I know a lot of people are becoming dissatisfied with the Google search results. And to go into this a bit deeper, I think for Reddit in particular, within the website, there are thousands of subreddits. And within those communities, there's a lot of like experts within their topic that know just a lot of information, and they're really kind of happy to share their knowledge. And they're not kind of referencing like another blog post or YouTube video. This is just expertise that they have, and they're happy to share it as well. So I do find in a lot of cases, the information on Reddit and forums is actually really good. And I do find, in particularly the last 6 months, it is becoming a little bit harder to outrank Reddit and forums. In many cases now, I see Reddit outrank a lot of blog posts that are actually targeting that particular question. So yeah, while Reddit has been kind of easy pickings previously, I think this kind of might flip in the next kind of 6 to 12 months, maybe even longer. But that's just kind of my hunch for that one. So moving on to the next one, and this is Google. So this actually makes me chuckle a little bit thinking about this, considering our whole kind of business model in most cases revolves around getting organic traffic from Google. But if you're going to speak to someone who's been doing SEO or web publishing for quite some time, a large majority of those people will say that, you know, they've lost traffic due to Google. So Google gives and they take. So yeah, I do say that Google definitely is one of the biggest threats to the longevity of web publishing. And you only have to look at this year to see an example of that. I think in the last, or since May, there's been 4 updates. And I can't remember a year where there's been so many back-to-back updates. that have had a significant impact on people's websites. For myself personally, I've had a couple of websites that have got hit, and I know a ton of people that have been hit by one or more updates as well. So the severity and the frequency of updates seems to be getting much worse with Google. And also another threat from Google is that they do show a lot of their kind of own knowledge graphs, their own kind of little informational cards where people don't actually have to go and click through to a website. So I do see a trend, and a lot of other people see this trend, where Google is showing more kind of information that they've kind of sourced themselves, or they've kind of just scraped websites and just made like a knowledge card of that. So that's another threat, where Google actually isn't providing any clicks to web publishers. Now, from a user's perspective, this is actually quite good. When I Google something and there's just like there's information directly there, it is a good user experience. But from like a web publisher's point of view, it actually would be good to see at least a Google snippet from a website that I have an option of clicking into. But nonetheless, Google does seem to be trending in the way of kind of showing their own knowledge cards and things like this. And another thing that I've kind of been thinking about recently is that I do think there kind of is a fundamental flaw in how the Google search operates. So say, for example, you're starting a website and you found a really low competition topic that no one's written about. So you've hit the jackpot, you found a really nice kind of article you can write, or you can pay someone to write. No one else has covered it. So you go and write that article. And then say, for example, in 6 months, another web publisher finds that same keyword and topic, and they too write an article. So what they're likely to do is go to the first position, which is your website. They're going to read through that and get a lot of information from that article and kind of recycle it and regurgitate some of that information and write their own. And then you can just rinse and repeat the same process. More bloggers and web publishers come along. They're going to read number 1 and 2 articles, and they're kind of just going to recycle that same information until the front page of Google, the 10 positions, kind of just repeating the exact same thing. So this kind of is a bit of a kind of double-edged sword, because I guess if you are searching for something, you do want kind of a general consensus that this actually is the information. But I guess it kind of defeats the purpose where, you know, the first 10 positions are kind of all the same. So I do think that Google will be kind of adding more interactive features within the SERPs, which people have started to see. So obviously this would include more video, more of their knowledge cards, even more TikTok results within the search, because I feel like this is a more kind of interactive approach where people can actually click on multiple results and get kind of multiple different like videos, TikToks, where there's kind of differing opinions on a particular topic. Now, obviously, this doesn't apply to every kind of search query out there, but I do think this does apply particularly to kind of long tail informational queries out there as well. So yeah, I think Google definitely is a threat, and I think this one slide could be unpacked into an entire video because there's just really so much to go into this one. So if you do think that Google is a threat, and if you do think there are other things that Google are doing, then again, please comment down below as well. So moving on to the next one, and this is the removal of third-party cookies. So I think when this was first released, people just thought, you know, blogging was dead, the ad model of blogging was dead. So this obviously is a threat, but it's kind of like an unknown. We're not exactly sure how severe this is going to be. For my opinion, I do think it's not going to be as bad as what people are saying. I just can't see that Google's going to shoot themselves in the foot and kind of remove, you know, 20 to 40% of their income from like their biggest business model, just to look like a more kind of privacy focused company. So obviously that could happen, but you just never know. And I think they keep pushing back the rollout of cookies further and further until they can kind of find the technology that is a good balance between the two. So nonetheless, it is a threat to kind of consider. But personally, I don't think this will be as big as, I don't think it will be like a huge deal. So moving on to the next one, and this is AI content. So this has been a really kind of hot topic issue the last couple of years, and AI content just seems to be growing at a faster pace every single month and year, and there's really no kind of indication of it slowing down anytime soon. So I do believe that Google has actually publicly stated that they are going to be cracking down on AI content, which I think is personally a really great thing. I just think it will be a really miserable future if a lot of the content out there is just going to be AI written, because from my perspective, AI kind of tools are kind of just, they're not really creating something new out of thin air. They're not coming up with an original thought. They're kind of just recycling and regurgitating existing content out there. So obviously there might be kind of like a hybrid approach between AI content and human writers. But I do think the kind of exponential growth of AI content has made it a lot harder for Google to kind of index these thousands and thousands of new websites. And I think it's just going to become a harder job for Google to really kind of differentiate human content to AI content. Now, that's not to say all AI content is bad. I've seen some really good stuff outrank some human content, and I've also seen a ton of garbage as well. But nonetheless, I do think that this will be kind of like an interesting component to the longevity of web publishing, and whether or not Google can really crack down on it and get rid of it, or kind of we're just in a future where there's kind of a combination of the two. So moving on to point 5, and this is big publishers. So for myself, I actually see this as maybe one of the biggest threats to the web publishing business model. And one thing I did forget to mention at the start of this video is that this list isn't in a particular order. It's completely random. But if I was going to put one at like the top 1, 2, or 3 positions, I would say that big publishers is one of the biggest threats, and this is big publishers like Dotdash Media and other big corporations like those. So I do think that they are a huge threat because they have such a huge kind of brand moat around them. They have just almost infinite resources. I mean, these companies are worth billions of dollars, so they do have the kind of capital, the manpower to throw into really big, high quality websites. And I think there will be a point where these big publishers do kind of reach their capacity of tapping into those really big, lucrative, juicy questions. And once they reach that point, I do think they will have to start going down the rungs in more low competition, long tail queries, because I guess they're just going to eventually cover all of the big topics, and then they'll have to start working their way down the more kind of long tail questions. And I've actually seen this in a few niches that I've been in, and also some websites that I've started previously. I've actually kind of exited some of those niches because I did see a lot of the big publishers kind of entering those niches. And I kind of had to decide whether or not I was up for the fight to kind of really battle against these huge publishers that can just really outrank me with ease, really. So that's not to say all of their content is high quality. I do see a lot of these big publishers kind of abusing their authority by publishing, just like 400-word articles. But I do think there will be like a consolidation of these kind of big websites. And I do kind of like have a kind of sense that going into the future, like maybe 70% of the search results will just be owned by a few large corporations that own just some of these big publishers and their kind of websites as well. So moving on to the next one, and this is recession. So it feels like I'm pretty sure we're actually in a recession, depending on who you speak to and like the definition of a recession, which seems to have changed this year. But it does seem that we're in a recession and the economy is continuing to slide down. So this obviously will apply to pretty much every business model out there and every business that they will be impacted, whether positively or negatively, by this recession. So obviously this will kind of this will include kind of corporations and businesses spending less on ad spend. So this means that we just might earn less from the visitors that come to our page, and also maybe for affiliate marketing, people will be less likely to just purchase products nilly-willy, where they have to kind of put that money to like essentials as well. So I think the average length of a recession is around 12 to 18 months. So this is kind of just one of the ebbs and flows of industries. So I don't think the impact of this will be too big, but nonetheless, this is just one of those cyclical things that will come around every now and again. And this one, you can't really do too much about it. It kind of just is out of our control. So moving on to the next one, and this is EAT. So I think the first EAT update was for money and medical queries, and it seems to be continually to kind of go into other niches as well. It seems that a lot of pet and animal niches are now highly impacted by EAT. And I think we're going to reach a point where EAT will apply to pretty much every single niche, regardless of what it is, whether it's cooking, shopping, automotive, whatever it is. Because the way I kind of think about it is the impact of if the information is incorrect. So say, for example, a question like, when should you put snow chains on your car? So if that information is incorrect, then that could actually have a really dire impact on someone's life if they put them on too late in winter and they end up crashing their car. Another example could be like reheating food. Obviously, you want that to be really accurate. But even things just like DIY things to clean your car, if you give that person wrong information and they end up damaging the paint on their car, then they're going to have a really negative impact on their kind of their day. And they're also going to be having a really kind of negative view towards Google because they gave them really poor quality information. So I think EAT will pretty much apply to every single niche regardless of what it is. And even if it's something small like the opening hours of a store, if that information is incorrect, that person potentially wastes 30 minutes, half an hour driving there. And if they're driving back and forth, they're frustrated, they might get into an accident. So the impact of these kind of questions, even though they might not seem to have a high impact like health or money, they actually do all have a positive or negative impact, whether small or large. So I do think that EAT is just going to become a bigger aspect of SEO going forward. And I think this is just something that SEOs will just have to really work on harder. This is something that I'm personally working on harder for all of the websites that I have. And hopefully that pays off into the future as well. So moving on to the next one, and this is kind of similar to point 5 of big publishers, and this is more specifically brands. So it does seem that a lot of kind of existing brands like e-commerce brands, household brands, they're now starting to, or I guess they have for a long time, but it seems to be more prominent now that they are creating kind of content moats included in their business. And obviously if you're searching for something and you see a recognizable brand, whether it's like Unilever or Home Depot on how to do like a DIY or clean something, you already have that brand recognition. So you're much more likely to click on a search result of that brand, and also just the massive trust that that brand has as well. And I think, and Google has said this themselves, I think this was a couple of years ago, where they said that the future of SEO is in brands. And this seems to be really popular talk at the moment within SEO. We want to try and build a brand, going into the long term, as that really kind of differentiates you from another website where someone actually actively comes back to your website and actively seeks you out. So I do think that existing brands are going to be coming more into the kind of content marketing space. Because I have a couple of friends in the e-com space, and they're saying that, just getting the customer through Facebook ads or Google ads is just becoming insanely expensive, and the margins are becoming thinner. And this is primarily due to the iOS update on Safari and the iPhones with the tracking. So it is becoming a lot harder. So a lot of people have started to kind of navigate into content marketing because the customer acquisition is a lot cheaper. So I do think brands will be coming more kind of attuned into content marketing going forward. So moving on to the next one, and this is the prominence of video in the SERPs. So for myself personally, I'd say around maybe 60 to 70% of the time, when I want to find information, a tutorial, how to fix something, a review, in a large majority of cases, I'm going to go directly to YouTube, because I just have that, I can kind of see the product, I can see someone doing it in real time. So I feel like there's just a lot more trust involved when watching a video. And in many cases, you do get a kind of more in-depth kind of experience, because you can actually visually see it. So I do see that video will play a bigger part in blogging and web publishing going forward. So for myself, I'm now doing videos for all the websites that I start, because I feel like a hybrid approach is really, really good. And who knows, maybe in 5-10 years, we'll be all transitioning over to video, and blogging will just be like a side thing that we can drive people from the channel to. But I do think that video is just going to become more and more important going forward. And you don't have to look far when you search for something. You know, sometimes the first 5 to 6 search results are videos, because the intent of the searcher is to actually watch a video. So if we're trying to kind of compete in a particular niche, we actually might have to start making more videos to compete in the SERPs, and also for within YouTube as well. And I actually think while this is a threat, this is also a huge, huge opportunity. YouTube SEO is actually incredibly, I'd say not easy, but I'd say the results are really quick. If you make a video, you can kind of tell within a couple of hours where it's going to land within the search results within Google, and also on YouTube as well. So yeah, this is a big threat, but I also think this is equally even a bigger opportunity. So moving on to the next one, and this is actually other platforms. So I was talking to my girlfriend the other day, and when she searches for like a recipe or travel, she actually goes directly to TikTok, because she can find like 10 videos, 10 60-second videos of like travel destinations. And within each of those 60-second videos, there's about 5 recommendations of people that are actually there on the ground, and they can recommend places to go or recipes to use. So the experience of using these other platforms is actually really, really good in some cases. Now, obviously TikTok isn't the best for finding like long tail specific information, but there does seem to be like a shift over to these other platforms, Instagram and TikTok, for finding like recommendations. And I do think in many cases this is a better experience as to kind of just Googling, you know, the best places to go in X, and you're kind of just getting, again, the same 10 results. You know, some people might have actually been there, but then people are recycling those same lists and then just regurgitating the same information. But I do find on other platforms that you do actually get kind of some unique recommendations from people actually on the ground. So I guess something to just take into consideration is these other platforms, similar to the above point on video. Whether or not they're going to overtake Google, only time will tell. But I think just being aware of these other platforms and the opportunities that they do kind of give to publishers is just something to consider. Now, I can't see TikTok taking over Google anytime soon, but you know, over the long term, you know, a bigger and better product might prevail and take over kind of Google and provide a better solution for search. Yeah, so that's it for this. That's it for this one, guys. Those are the 10 biggest threats to the longevity of web publishing and blogging. Now, I do know there are many others out there. This is just a quick list that I made. So again, if you do feel like there are other threats to this particular model, please share them down below. And I obviously didn't include other web publishers, because in many cases we are competing for the same queries. But you know, there are many others out there that I'm sure I forgot to add to this list. So hopefully this video was good, guys. I know it's been a while, and hopefully it won't be as long until the next upload. So thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next one.